Free, dude. Co-stream, all good stuff,
God.
dude. The so do you just have the one daughter?
Yeah, you only have one girl.
Nice.
We're good. We're happy with the one. I hear you're a father of what, 4?
Oh man, guess
You're
again.
a madman. What? Well, no. More?
Yeah, more.
6.
Maybe.
That is so many. How?
But yeah, I have one in like 3rd grade, and then I got pre-K, so it's like 2 in pre-K, and they'll be they're kind of just stepping in. What's up?
Things are going wrong on my end. Don't mind me.
Oh, take your time, dude. Like, this is just, I usually kind of mentally block 5. I think the last pre-show ended up being 12 minutes where we just talked about the state of like healthcare, video games, and it's like, well, we'll get to it.
Absolutely no worries. Yeah, apparently my OBS does not want to run. Oh, there's an update for something or other, and now
there was an update for OBS.
Camera.
Yeah, that was I just like interestingly enough, like I'm trying to target like one show a week, and then like twice in a row I've had just like, hey, yep, we got 2 people, and one can go in the morning and one can go in the evening. It's like, let's do both. Let's podcast.
Did you lose camera?
Of you? Yeah, on your end.
Weird.
Chances are what happened was that OBS was trying to grab your camera, and the browser lost access to it or something.
Now, how do I give the browser
permission? How I rock and roll with it is I just close out OBS and then rejigger it,
Interesting. Stop mic and camera.
Oh, hello. Yeah, he says now it says device is not connected. That's why you're here right now. You watching this VOD. Everybody's all about that pre-show. Let's see here. All right, Henny's back.
There we go. We fixed it.
Sweet. Yeah. That's how we roll, man. That's how we roll.
It keeps grabbing the camera. That's okay. No worries.
Yeah, feel free to go live, if you want, because that's always fun.
I will try and launch OBS once more.
Okay.
We'll see if this works. So how long have you been doing this radio show, this podcast of sorts?
Interestingly enough, my history with content creation is just, if you ever like look back and you're like, oh, that's what I was doing. I literally stumbled into it when they announced. So I'm working on a video because I want to flex, and I thought of a fun way to flex on it is that it's my 130,000 hours with Final Fantasy 14, because I have been covering the game before, like since it was announced. I was like all about, so yeah. When you think about it, that's 13 years, but it's
what was that number again?
130,000 hours with Final Fantasy 14.
130,000.
Yeah. It's 13 years of me talking about and playing Final Fantasy 14.
That's
it's insane, right? But they announced, like, literally E3 2009, Sony comes on stage, they talk about whatever, and then they're like, we're gonna announce Final Fantasy 14. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's on online, it's an MMO. Oh my gosh. Run out to my local Guitar Center, pick up an M8 audio thing, because I was in a band in college. We weren't great. And I have like all these mics. So I start running them through into my computer, into GarageBand, and we start a podcast the next day. And so we were the first official, and then I get picked up by Curse. So the Curse Network picks us up. We're running the podcast. Realm Reborn happens. I end up shifting over to Aetheryte Radio. So I'm just doing podcasting and stuff. And it was, everybody starts asking me for controller guides. And so me and my buddy were like, hey, let's make a podcast as well. And so him and I sit down and we work the game. So we start talking video, no one's watching this stuff. And then I'm like, someone's like, hey, what's this controller guide? So I posted over on my personal channel, and I look at, I don't even pay attention to it. I'm like, I don't understand what YouTube and content creation is. I just like, oh, you need a guide? Sure, here you go. And then I look back and it's like, it's got 5,000 views. And so I was like, oh, I'll post these over on Chris and I's Work to Game stuff. And then that ends up growing and growing and growing. And then eventually gets to the point where people don't know who Chris is. And it's like, it's both of us, and so then we start, then I come up with like, okay, well, let's all just kind of have our own channel, and we'll have this as a collaborative channel. And and then it's been that migration. So I only been doing this stuff for Ginger Prime for 2 years technically, but Work to Game is 5 years old now.
I actually discovered your content in my initial dive into Final Fantasy 14 year and a half ago. I was just kind of like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this 14 thing. Let's do a quick Google search, YouTube search, and yours And Word to Games, that content popped up as just beginner-friendly guides, and that's how I
Mhm.
found your content initially.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's like I was hanging out on some of your live streams when you were doing on YouTube,
Yep,
and one of the things, like, if you don't mind sharing, and if you do mind sharing, we'll
by
just
all
go
means.
into the show. Like, I saw that you pulled a lot of content off your channel, and you were doing live streams, and,
Mhm.
like, my theory behind it, and then you could tell me how close I am or not, but is
Sure.
that generally speaking, like, YouTube's algorithm has been jacked up, and I sometimes live streams can seem to help, and sometimes they hurt, and so I didn't know if you were, like, just basically refocusing your channel, to kind of a more, like, like, a more focused kind of idea as opposed to, like, "Oh, here, I'm streaming this game, or I'm streaming that game," but, what happened?
So the Krojak YouTube channel is not my primary YouTube channel. It's my
Right.
secondary one.
Mhm.
And I have a love-hate relationship with streaming specifically. Sometimes I am in the perfect mindset to do it and I'm ready to tackle every obstacle. And other times I'm like, why am I wasting my time? Flip the table, delete everything, turn everything off, and just go do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So it's a partially a mental health thing, partially trying to figure out how to properly create the right kind of content on YouTube to give you the best results possible. Whether streaming is the right way to do that, whether dedicated pieces of content are the way to do that. It's very it's a little bit of everything, a little bit of both. But honestly, mostly mental health. I get into a mental
Yeah.
state where I'm like, okay, this is failing. When I got to the end of Shadowbringers, I panicked hardcore because I knew once you're done the MSQ in 14, your viewership goes from here and drops. And I emotionally was not ready for that.
Yeah.
So
You
that
did
was
the
quite a
right
mistake.
thing. I mean, honestly, like, that's I don't know how to communicate that because I get so much hate. Like,
Mhm.
it's so funny because they're like, "You hate the game." I'm like,
Yep.
"No, we're gonna talk about it honestly." And I'm trying to always find the right words for content creators to kind of say, like, "Listen, like, watching somebody play through the MSQ is like this beautiful thing.
Yep.
But, like, let's just note that," and it's like I haven't figured out how to, because like you can't reach everybody, and so there's been a couple of like train wrecks that it's like, this is like, oh man, I wish they'd, oh, they, like, they're like, "Oh, I'm making it. I've quit my
Yeah.
job." I'm like, "Oh
Yeah.
God, no, like, no," like, oh,
MMO gamers, we have a problem. One, our industry is tiny, 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 tiny,
yeah,
tiny. There are not enough viewers on YouTube interested in MMORPG stuff to start. And then on top of that, when you're looking on YouTube or Twitch for MMO related content, you're looking for answers. You have
yeah,
questions about the game, you want to know what the game kind of looks like, you're looking for answers.
mhm,
Nobody wants to sit there and watch you smack rocks for 15 hours. Nobody. There's
yeah,
no entertainment value in it. It's not like a battle royale where there's that innate that rush of watching the person try to make it to the end of the game and do they make it or not. Like that's built into the genre of first person shooters and battle royales on YouTube or for MMOs. It's not there.
yeah,
So for us as content creators, our dream is to sit, eat Cheetos, drink Mountain Dew, and just play our favorite video game for 15 hours and have 20,000 people adore us for it. And that's not
you picked the
reality.
wrong genre,
We picked
and
the wrong genre.
also you've chosen to procreate, which is
Mhm.
antithetical to that dream. That's why, like, people ask me, like, do you want to go full-time content creation? And I'm
Mhm.
like, that sounds to me like we were talking at, like, just like with 5 kids, who knows, maybe an
Yep.
additional one. Like, that sounds like an absolute nightmare to be like, oh, I got to stream, I got to do this. It's like
Mhm.
one of the things I enjoy. Like, I'm a software engineer,
Yep.
developer. Like,
Yep.
I enjoy like that. That also pays like actually consistently, where content
Absolutely.
creation, I don't know how your summer was, but like literally
Good.
50% of my revenue, I made $600 like on
Mhm.
YouTube this summer. And I was like, that's great. Like, that's income that helps cover the dentist and stuff.
Yep.
But the at its core, that's the dentist for the kids. My daughter had a cavity. It was like $800. I was like, son of a gun. I was like, all right, now
Yep.
you're brushing twice a day. Like,
Yep. Now,
please.
I'm a full-time content creator. I've been
Yeah.
full-time for 3 years now. So, I have the luxury of being in this room in my house for as many hours as I want to.
Nice.
Also, having only 1 child versus the 5 is much easier to balance,
Yeah.
right? So, from now that my daughter's finally in school, I am free, beyond free from the moment she goes to school until
Unleashed.
she gets home. So, 4 or 5 o'clock is usually when I'm done work,
Hmm.
and then, go upstairs, spend time with my family, and then when my daughter goes to bed, might watch something with my wife, hockey game, football game, whatever's on, or a
Hmm.
show, and then I'm back down here doing work. So, I don't have a worry about having to balance my work life. If I wanted to, if I was capable, if I had
Yeah.
already amassed the audience, I could have streamed from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. But ultimately, that's if I had to give one piece of advice to any content creator out there, is not to go down the road of streaming and to go down the road of
Well,
making videos.
at least as a primary aspect, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
hell, let's just jump into the actual podcast because
Sure.
at this
Let's go.
point, because like there's some really good points to be talked about.
Mhm.
Namely, because when people say how to get start streaming, I go learn how to edit videos. Like
Oh,
I
yes.
technically like I started just by making videos, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden it's like oh, I go live occasionally. Like it's
Yep.
like as opposed to like the main one. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for everybody who's tuning in. Also, WG, thanks so much for the upgrade, and Vaughn. Vinny Vaughn right there. Thanks for hitting that membership button. I might be posting a kind of a little video here later next week, so you guys are a little bit ahead of the curve. A little call to action itself. But anyhow, let me kick this thing off, and we're gonna have a really good show.
Let's go
1,
for it.
2, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Epic Loot Radio. My name is Brian, and joining me is Krojak, the man, the one guy that I reacted to, and Twitter seemed to really enjoy that
Oh,
reaction.
yeah.
And they were like, "You guys got to get together." And I was like, "Well, make a note of it." So today we're going to actually be talking about the state of MMORPGs,
Mhm.
state of content creation, especially around MMOs. Really giving and getting into your thoughts and your opinion, especially as it relates to this genre that we both love. I've been watching your reaction also as you dive into and finish off Endwalker.
Mhm.
You finished the walk. I haven't seen anything
That
past that, so I don't know if you stepped into 6.1. So give
6.0
everybody.
is done.
Okay, cool.
6.1 has not started yet.
Good. I think I honestly like a part of me goes like I really am jealous of those who get to come and consume like all the
Mhm.
the post expansion content in one kind of sitting as opposed to like all right, that was a cliffhanger. Okay, got to wait 4
There's a
months.
part of me who doesn't want to touch 6.1 and just wants to leave it until the next expansion is announced. And then as a lead up to the expansion, go 6.1, 6.2, and then 6 point whatever until the expansion drops.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to wait.
Most likely to give you kind of a time frame for that because
Mhm.
I could almost we actually have like Excel sheets. I know my friend Chris, who I run Work to Game with,
Yep.
has patch schedules already pre-predicted
Hmm.
with various different adjustments.
Hmm.
It is one of the beautiful things about 14. It's also one of
Consistency.
the it's very consistent.
Yep.
And that can be really interesting as you see sprouts come in, and especially sprout content creators come in
Yep.
versus somebody come in who's like, oh yeah, like I don't hardcore grind anything but the leveling
Mm.
until patch point 4, like until the point 4,
Right.
because then everything that's when you're going to get the most bang for your buck. But that's also usually right around the time they announce the expansion, which timing wise would put it sometime around summer, or aka the 10-year anniversary next August. It'd
Yep.
be that. So in that ballpark, that's when we might be seeing things. I'm hoping we get something in person
Oh, yeah.
because oh dude, I would love to come hang out with like the community again.
Mm.
It's been too long since we've done that. But overall, like you've been streaming Final Fantasy 14. You also did, and the video I reacted to was your New World video, so I really kind of would love to kind of
Sure.
juxtapose and have a kind of discussion around that. But like before we do any of that, I want to give you the floor to kind of shout yourself out, shout your content out. You run multiple channels, so you and
Mm.
we're both gingers. We both have children. Like we're
I'm like
clearly best friends.
3/4 ginger. I've got everything but the hair, the beard, the skin, the freckles. I'm like
Yeah. Well, I
genetically, I'm like
mean,
three
well, then
quarters
at the
there.
same time, like it's just go.
Yeah, you got the freckles too and all that jazz.
Well, everything but the hair.
Right.
The hair is just like it's been just
Yeah.
like retreating.
My daughter is also full ginger, eyebrows, the whole 9 yards. She is pale and red and wonderful. So here, I'll give you the very brief story. I'll condense it in about 2 minutes. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, 2015, I discovered the content creation career path. I had a roommate living with me who introduced me to a YouTuber named Markiplier. He was
Mm,
huge in his Five Nights at Freddy's fame. Like it was just dropping for him and he was hot for it. And I had no clue what I was looking at. I'm like, what do you mean I'm watching
yeah.
some dude play a video game on YouTube? I had no clue what it was. I was too busy. I was in college. I was married. I was doing my own thing. And then as the days go by, he keeps telling me, yo, come in here, check this out. Look at this video. It's so funny. I got curious. And I started to look at his content. And then I realized, oh, he's been doing this for a long time. And then I
Mhm.
started to research into the career path of being a YouTuber, discovering the unlimited vertical possibility of the career path, and decided being a police officer, being a border security officer, joining the military, that kind of a lifestyle is not the right road for me.
Mhm.
So naively, I thought I could pull it off. And I was stubborn enough to never stop. So those two negative personality traits served me very well. So for the first, God, 18 months, I released 300 videos and had like 180 subs. I had no clue what I was doing.
Hmm.
Thousands of videos later, years later, here I am. I'm a full-time content creator. I've been full-time for a very long time. And my primary YouTube channel, Crow, is actually my second or third created channel, but it is the bread and butter of my life. It's sitting at about 450,000
Hmm.
subscribers, but more importantly, it pulls in millions of views a month, which is everything.
Well, yeah.
So, and then a couple summers ago, the Crow channel is going great. I'm making gaming videos. I'm a bit bored. I got
Hmm.
time on my hands. And I'm like, I haven't touched an MMO since I started YouTube. Because when I started YouTube, it was like everything. I sold my Magic the Gathering collection to buy my first camera, microphone, and computer parts. I stopped playing D&D. I stopped playing MMOs. It was all in every waking hour of the day, focused on YouTube content. We're talking 5 a.m., start work, afternoon, go to college, evenings, make YouTube videos, 4 hours of sleep, do it again. That was life for years until I went full time.
Hmm.
Couple summers ago, I'm bored, got nothing to do, got free time. And Final Fantasy 14 was popping off. Shadowbringers, Asmon just kind of started it.
Hmm.
Melly Games talking about it. You were popping off with it. Everyone was like just talking about 14. So I'm okay. I played Final Fantasy as a kid. I played, 2, which is technically 4, and 1,
Yeah,
and 7,
exactly.
and 8, and 10.
He's got the right numbers. Two,
It's 2,
technically
technically
four.
4. 2,
Yeah,
technically 4.
that's
There's
how you
2
say
here.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it was Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I can't remember which one it came out on at the time.
SNES. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a kid. I was like 8 tops. So I'm like, let's play 14. I dove into it on my own privately, not even live. And I got to about the Garuda fight in A Realm of Born. And I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying this. Why don't I just try going live on the old YouTube channel Krojak that I had since shut down years prior?
Hmm.
Went live to 20 people. Some people I haven't talked to in a long time. Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. And then I kept doing it. All of a sudden, by the time I got to Shadowbringers, I was streaming to 2,000, 3,000 people on YouTube. It was insane.
Yeah.
And that started me down the additional career path of also making MMO related content on top of the general gaming content I do as well. It's quite the
Yeah.
path.
Yeah, it is quite the path. It feels very organic too, because like I feel like for me, I also kind of just accidentally fell into it
Mhm.
through podcasting. Like I was like, I love video games, I love talking about them, and that's kind of a key aspect to this specific thing. So in the pre-show, you asked like how long, like, well, Epic Blue Radio kind of was born out of, just trying to cover like a wider range of games, but then ultimately it became such a because I was always trying to get like a round table of different voices, and then it just became like I'm spending all my time scheduling, and it's just taking out the fun. And then
Yeah.
this year I was just like, what if I just like say, hey, do you want to talk about like this? And everybody just keeps saying yes. And then it just becomes, all right, that time works for you. I'll see you then. And then you just kind of jump into it. And it's been a lot of fun. And chat has been responding real well to it. I haven't seen massive sub loss, because it's always interesting to see like, oh, people really responded to this. And it's like, other than that, because when it comes to games, especially like trends, Final Fantasy 14 hit a massive trend last year, and it was like, what is this going to look like? Is this going to be positive? Is this going to continue? And then obviously you see Endwalker, and then you just kind of see, it kind of self-retract like it normally does. And I think we'll see it burst back onto the scenes when we start hearing about the next expansion, because then people can kind of get caught up through the story. So you were saying you might kind of wait to play this 6.1 until then. And I think that's actually probably the best kind of call, because the story itself is also self-contained. It's not like you're left in Endwalker with the hang like
6.0, the story is done.
Yeah, what did you think about that? Like, as a longtime player and as an MMO fan, I'm guessing World of Warcraft is in your back catalog somewhat.
It's in everyone you talk to played World of Warcraft growing up. Like anyone our age, that was bread and butter. Very few of us played the ones before that. For me, it was RuneScape before WoW. But WoW was everything. And WoW trained me to not care about story. To not care about quest text. To download add-ons to automatically accept the quests and hand them in instantly. Right? And there was very few, if not any, cutscenes throughout it. So entering 14, it rekindled my love for a good story. I used to read fantasy novels as a kid, and I fell out of that. And used to be into D&D, and I fell out of that. So I stopped caring about quality storytelling and that kind of a thing. And my goodness, 14 has set itself apart in the MMO space through the power of its story. All it takes now is a clip from a song, from any expansion, and all of a sudden I'm flooded with emotion. And that's the hallmark of great art, is if it can make you feel something.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what 14 has done, not only for me, who didn't care about story, but for you and for many people. And it is exceptional. It's an exceptional experience. It's such a good experience. My wife, who is a big MMO gamer, played WoW, and a big Final Fantasy nerd, played 10 and 10 too to 100%
Oh
completion.
yeah.
I'm like, I love you to death. Please start 14. You don't know what you're missing.
So on that note, then, especially as a family that slays together, stays together,
Mhm.
um, between has she finished Endwalker like you have, or is she still making her
She
way through?
hasn't started 14. She dabbled in A
Oh,
Realm Reborn barely, but
oh wow.
now that my daughter is in full-time school, giving
Hmm.
her complete freedom, I'm trying to like navigate her carefully to experience it and get through the standard vanilla experience of Realm Reborn, which is standard and vanilla until you get to the parting last quest. Once you hit that quest, you're hooked.
Hmm.
Everybody's hooked when they get to that quest. And then they go into Heaven's Word and they're off on the way they go.
Yeah. So on that note, then, what would be? Do you have a favorite expansion
Heaven's
within
Word.
your Heaven's
Heaven's
Word?
Word. It's
Why?
dragons, priests, and a 1,000-year war. I'm looking at D&D fantasy books. That is my background. So as soon as I found out there was dragons and the priesthood was corrupt and there's a 1,000-year war and all this stuff, and then you had the brand new amazing voice actors that came in to replace the questionable voice acting of A Realm Reborn with the better storytelling and all that. It was such an exceptional experience, and I still, even after finishing Endwalker, that walk was quite good. That walk was quite good. Not gonna lie. I don't think there's a moment that made me feel as powerful as 3.3 on the bridge saving Estinian. Go back to the footage. I screamed. I was
Hmm.
filled with emotion. It was such a powerful thing. Shadowbringers was very, very good. And Endwalker was fantastic. It's a 9 out of 10. It's phenomenal. There's parts in it that I'd love to critique, and
Hmm.
chat skewered me for critiquing their lovely game because there was some pacing issues. But overall, it was a 9 out of 10 experience. But for me, the music, the emotion, Heaven's Word was my baby, and it still is.
Let me ask you probably the most dramatic question that I can
Sure.
think of. In that, how would you go about fixing ARR?
How would I go about fixing ARR?
Yeah, because you said your wife struggled with it. Like I
A lot of
enjoyed
people do.
ARR. Like
Mhm,
I enjoyed it because it came from 1.0.
mhm.
I was a beta player. Like, and I was like,
It's not
wow, like
bad.
that's the thing.
It's
And
not bad.
that's the hard thing about online is that you
Yeah.
can't like in this conversation. I know I can already picture. I know the commenters too. I
Mhm.
know them by name because they're just so like, oh man, I just like, all right, I just have
When
to
you
kind of
compare A
yeah.
Realm Reborn to other MMORPG leveling experiences, it's not bad. But the problem is that immediately afterward, you get Heaven's Word, you get Shadowbringers, and you get Endwalker. You get these exceptional experiences. And then when you go back and compare, you're like, wow, it's horrible. It's not horrible. But these other things are just that exceptional. And it's tough to explain that to people who haven't touched like Realm Reborn in ages, etc. It's hard to explain that to people. It's not terrible. If you've
Mhm.
leveled up in vanilla World of Warcraft, like that's terrible. That was hard, man. That took time. If you played EverQuest back in the day, leveling in that was hard, man.
Yeah.
Like Realm Reborn is nice, and the cutscenes really add to it, etc. Um, Recast Minfilia's voice actress because I can't listen to her talk ever again. It
Yeah.
hurts so much. I can't do it.
It's interesting you bring up voice acting because that's
Mm,
something that I have actually come to the conclusion that it's that I don't know if they'd ever do it, but if they ended up going through and kind of just looking at adding in more voice acting to have that cohesiveness that kind of ties in,
yes.
because as you get into Heaven's Word,
Mhm,
Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Walker, it's like it's kind of weird because it's like as a veteran, I'm like, hi, yeah, like it really the hooks really kick in.
mhm.
I think if they did a little bit of work in that regards, because I don't think changing the quest or doing like there's not much, but if they actually added in voice acting, I think
Yep.
that's enough to actually start getting the hooks in earlier so people get excited about the next cutscene and the next cutscene. But that I
Yes.
just seems that also seems like kind of a really far wish on a star. What's up?
That what you're talking about is a major conversation contention with my chat. Is I'm always like, why is this cutscene not voice acted? Why is this one not voice
Mhm.
acted? And this one, and this one, and this one, and all of this. Why are they not all voice acted? Other games have done it. A buddy of mine, Baz, just went into the Star Wars MMO and realized, oh wait, every single scene here is voice acted. Every single
Yeah.
one.
I know why. I can give you an answer.
Probably a financial reason, probably a timing reason,
It's a
probably
time. It's a timing localization,
Mhm.
namely because of the amount of time it takes. It actually would then conflict with the pacing of the content
Sure,
patches. So
sure.
it just means that it's that from a global, and I'm like, and that's unfortunate that that's kind of the cost, but the trade-off ends up being that we get more consistent content because I'm right with you. Like
Mhm.
if you ever watch any of my reactions, it's always when a cutscene kicks off, I actually audibly say, I wonder if this one's voiced. and then I wait, and then it's like, okay, no, it's not, and then I voice it, or oh, it is
Mhm.
voiced, and then I kind of sit back,
Yep.
relax, and kind of enjoy the experience.
The only way to bring Endwalker from a 9 to a 9.5 is to voice act every single cutscene. And then bring it to a 10 is to cut out some of the tedious downtimey kind of stuff that doesn't serve much of a purpose other than just to pad the
Mhm.
expansion because it's so close to perfection. The
Yeah.
experience of Endwalker. And when it comes to voice acting, if you have, for me personally, just me, if you have to delay the game 6 months, if you have to delay the game a year, I don't care. Give me the best experience you can. If you have to double the price of the damn game, I do not care. Give me the best experience you can because it's so good and I know
Mhm.
it could be so much better and I want it. I do
What
not care the cost.
would you say? What would be then your utopian experience that we would compare and judge 14 against? Then,
The
so in your
problem
mind,
is, I don't have any.
yeah,
Right now, this is magical Christmas land in my head. The ideal utopian game version of an MMORPG. I still haven't found it. I haven't found. I want to take New World's combat and world and add a 14 level MSQ with characters that I love from World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? I just want to
yeah.
take all these beautiful things and put them together in this magical Christmas land game. It does not exist and it cannot exist.
That's the actually, like, when I talk about when I'm with my love of New World, and that's where it's like I want to kind of talk about kind of what we
Sure.
look at as an MMO real quick. But like
Mhm.
when I look at that game specifically, I go, I wish they would give Yoshi P this budget. Like, I
Yeah.
wish, what would he do? Like, you would just,
Mhm.
in my mind, I'm like, what, like this, the world in and of itself is so immersive. Like, it is
Mhm.
literally one of the most
It's wonderful.
in my experience. I came from 11. I didn't play WoW
Mhm.
until Shadowlands, and that was a piss poor experience,
Right.
and I was like, all right, well, this kind of is like Final Fantasy, but I like Final Fantasy more. Why am I here?
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to dog on WoW just because I'm actually, any dogging on WoW comes from my 11
Yep.
insecurities, my Final Fantasy 11 insecurities, because we're all like, it's a character, it's not a tune. 11 is better than WoW, but
Yep.
the numbers don't matter. So it's like we always had that going in with us, and then it was really cool to see Final Fantasy 14 really take center stage and kind of show off.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deservedly so.
But the first question for you would be, how do you define an MMORPG? What does that mean to you?
So in World of Warcraft's prime, we're talking Wrath of the Lich King when it was at by 12 to 16 million subs in its prime. The concept of being online on a game with other people, sharing similar experiences was novel.
Mhm.
It was new. It wasn't done before. The internet was a baby.
Yeah.
The social media was a baby. Like MySpace was still a thing. Like the whole concept of being online with your friends, doing something together, overcoming obstacles together was brand new. It was
Yeah.
wonderful. Now, every single game is online. There are exceptions,
Mhm.
and they are rare, but the online experience is synonymous with entertainment, social media, Discord, on and on and on. You can always be with your friends in any type of game, whether it's a first person shooter, an MMO, an RPG, whatever. So MMOs lost the novelty. Now people can look at the gameplay of an MMO and go, man, I don't know if this gameplay is for me. So what is an MMORPG? It was a fantastic idea, but it needs a new novel concept in order to enter the stratosphere of what it once was in the mind's eye of the general gamer. The general gamer is more interested in the battle royale. The general gamer is more interested in the MOBA, like League of Legends and such. They're not as interested in sharing an online world with other people because they can do that online thing with people anywhere. It's too bad.
So in that vein, then, do you have any kind of idea what that novelty could be, what that attraction
Sword
could
Art
be?
Online,
Oh yeah.
the VR experience, the as close as you can get to feeling like you're actually in the world. When that technology happens, 100, 200, who knows how far from now, when it's possible to have a high quality virtual reality experience in an MMO, that is a beautiful novelty. That's the next level of MMORPG for somebody. How do we bridge the gap from now until then and make MMORPGs interesting and fresh enough to continue to attract a new audience? I don't know. I believe MMORPGs in general are a dwindling state. And any new MMO coming out now needs something that separates it. For 14, it's its exceptional story.
Mhm.
That's what separates it and makes it worth playing over a generic MMO.
Why are MMOs in a dwindling state, in your opinion?
Time. Some people love to spend a lot of time on one thing to achieve a result. Some people don't. For example, in New World,
Mhm.
a lot of people in the forums and Reddit and stuff are asking for a normalization of gear in OPR, a normalization of gear in Arena.
Mhm.
I'm quite against that because OPR and Arena fills a certain PvP niche for me, but those people would do very well in like a Counter Strike or a first person shooter where it's skill only and not the grind for gear, the building of the characters as part of the experience. Not everybody wants to spend hundreds of hours playing one game and building a character in order to experience PvP or experience this or experience that. So it kind of has built a gateway for things. However, Josh Strife Hayes talked about this in a video, and it was is eloquently put because he's eloquent when he speaks. Is that if we are given things quickly and easily, they lose value.
Yeah.
So it's a catch 22. You need to have a system that has new players come in and enjoy it, but is difficult enough so that when they do finish it, it feels rewarding. And that's hard. I think 14 does it correctly with its free to play until the end of Heaven's Word. It gives people that ease of access, but then the game goes from there and it gives people go, okay, I'm not done yet. I have more to achieve. So I think that's one way to do it. But in terms of gameplay, like New World's leveling experience when it first was released was quite difficult and challenging.
Interesting. Yeah, I found its leveling experience to be actually quite rewarding, and it's all about, and this is kind of a personal, like, where you
Mm,
change your perspective,
mm.
because my entry, it was with 11, so it was that open world, you're farming on the same mobs in a single camp, and
That's the
that's how you
grind. Yeah,
level,
yeah,
right? That's the
yeah.
grind. Like, and it's there's a comfort there. In fact, actually, I
Mhm.
can literally go into New World right now and I can grind on boss mobs that out in the
Yep.
open world for the entire stream. I
Yes.
can go cut down trees the entire stream, and I'm just
You and
like,
me are
I am
boomers.
happy, as yeah, I'm happy as can be. But what I ended up doing with New World, where as opposed to like a lot of people were rushing and looking for that quest hub and
Mhm.
moving from place to place and having the game basically kind of like cart you around,
Yep.
etc. I was looking at it that the end game began at level 1, and so I was
Mhm.
never actually in this mad dash, mad rush, and so my entire leveling experience was just bliss. Like, it was just
Right.
like, oh, I wanted to do this, and everything was always just feeding that XP meter. Obviously, sometimes I was like, I'm going to be efficient today, and I'm going to go really just like
Yep.
get these quests and turn them in, and
Yep.
boom, I got some levels. And then some days I was like, all right, I'm just kind of hanging out. So I ended up having that a different approach. But have you had a chance to check out the New World's PTR and new experience yet?
I'm very excited for the direction that New World is taking,
Yeah.
for the additions that they're adding to it. It feels like we're starting to get a really complete game here, finally, after all this time. Um, I love New World. It's actually my favorite MMO to play
Hmm.
as a game. I was in there earlier today. I was running around to forts, killing people with bow and spear. I love it. I
Yeah.
love everything about the game. I love the open world PvP.
There's a hook. It has a hook that it's just
Yes.
like, oh wow,
I
this is
love the simplicity of the gameplay, and yet it's so complex as well. You only have 3 abilities per weapon. You have 2 weapons. There's 6 whopping abilities, and
we're about
yet
to get
it
ultimates
feels
too, dude. And
that's
it's like,
interesting.
now they have out of all the ultimates I've seen, they have one that I feel that I want that's not there. And
Mhm.
it's as a healer. Like, I've been kind of really leaning into the healing role right
There's
now
not
in New
really a
World.
healing ult, is there?
Not
Thinking
well, there's the
uh,
life staff and the void gauntlet. That's kind of how I'm
I meant
currently.
from an ultimate perspective, like the ults
Well,
they
there
list on the
isn't.
PTR, there's nothing
Correct.
specific to healers.
Correct. And I'm hoping that we get to see that change, either like some kind of big heal
Mhm.
and maybe a shield,
Yeah.
or some form of like, if I go down, I can self res. Kind of, I'm looking at
Mm,
Destiny's Fire Warlock from Destiny
mhm.
1. And it's like, I always enjoyed that. Like, oh, hey, I can save the raid. I had my
Yep.
ultimate, and I decided to sit on it and I used it strategically. And I looked at what they showed off and I was like, yeah, that's going to be the feedback that I immediately give, is
Yep.
like having some form of healing ultimate that I can decide if I want to kind of equip, or that could also be an interesting thing to take on a paladin build, right? Like,
Yep.
you're like, okay, I'm actually really the tank, but I do have the ability to kind of do some recovery if need be on occasion.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's truly interesting, because having gone and played the new player experience,
Yep.
like, it feels like they're really leaning into the feedback that they're getting. It is
Yes.
it's more curated, but it doesn't restrict you to, so I can still
Mhm.
run to any city I
Yep.
want. I can still do
Absolutely.
what I want. And so I can choose to follow this storied path, which is beautifully voice acted.
Mhm.
And then they're bringing in the cutscenes at this beautiful animation quality
Yep.
that I think will help a lot of players who say like, hey, this game doesn't really have a story. And it's like, well, it does. It's just told through exposition, as opposed to like
Yes.
kind of just laying it out there for
They need
you.
to show you, not tell you.
Yeah. And then ultimately, I think if somebody plays through, and I still expect somebody to play through that experience,
Mm.
get to 60 and say, that was fun. And then, go play other games and then
Yep.
wait for more storied content. But if what that is showing us is also what is to come after in that
Yes.
more story driven telling approach from a, single or a light multiplayer group, I think New World has a real shot at actually shaking up the market.
It has been growing to the point where they have to add servers because
Yeah.
they condense, etc. And you made me remember something about hitting 60 and then going and playing other games. That's another reason why MMORPGs just aren't the same as they used to be.
Right.
One, there's a lot of options to play for MMOs, splitting the MMO player base amongst all the different options.
Mhm.
And then two, there's a lot of exceptional games out there. Great games, beautiful games, regardless of your interest. If you're an FPS gamer, there's amazing FPS games. If you love RPGs, there's great RPGs. Open world games, tons of amazing options. So if the MMO isn't hooking you, you have plenty of other things to do.
Well, have you ever? This is one of my pet peeves about the genre
Mm,
is when I see sites like IGN and maybe GameSpot review an MMO, and it's
right.
always in the context of, all right, another MMO's out, you get to go review it, and some guys like the review ends up. I always kind of read them, and they're always like, it's an MMO. I'm like,
Yep.
there is a sense that I get, and I've always kind of wondered, is like, are you sure you like MMOs? I'm not asking you directly. I'm
Mm,
asking like generally, like when gamers are like, yeah, it's like an MMO. There's a grind, etc. It's like
yep.
that's kind of what is advertising to me. And people are saying I'm selling a New World, and it sells itself, and it's 50% off at the moment. So if
Mm,
you're listening to this in real time, there you go. But I always kind of like wonder is like sometimes I feel like the games and their hype also attract a player that is just never going to stick around with it. There's
true.
no hook, there's no world, it is a game that they are technically against, but they're playing it because hype is a hell of a
Mhm.
drug. How much do you think hype has both helped and hurt this game?
Mostly helped. Mostly helped all MMOs. You're never gonna know if you like an MMO until you actually play one. So the only way to bring new players in is hype, is advertising, is trying. I didn't know I liked World of Warcraft until I set foot in that game in November 2001, whenever that game released. Like, I had no clue. So without these hypes, now on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
people, and this is never going to change. I'm saying this, nothing's ever going to change about this. People need to stop screaming dead game when a game loses players because every single game ever released back in the day to now to the future will lose players the first week after it comes out. It's the nature of the industry. It's the nature of the thing. The NFL, when sports opening week for the NFL probably has some of the best viewership numbers for a while. Mid-season, no one's watching the NFL, and then maybe come playoff time, it goes back up again. Everything, every form of entertainment. When you go see movies, when a movie's first released, everyone goes to see it, and then it dwindles off. It's just natural. So it's that is actually my own little pet peeve. Hearing the words "dying game" or "dying YouTube channel" or "dying this" or "dying that." Entertainment's just built that way.
I couldn't say it better. It is something that is just it's memeable and laughable, but people I heard so and so say this and then like, have you played it yourself? And it's like, no. And that's actually the thing
Mhm.
where I always kind of came back on people as like, is New World a game that needs a lot of work? Yeah. I think
Yeah,
everybody who's playing the game
yeah,
says
it
there's a
did.
list, but it's a list that is not like, oh yeah, this game's unplayable. It's just like,
Ooh,
no, okay, go ahead.
remember how many times have you read on the New World forums or Reddit that it needed the A Realm Reborn treatment?
Yes. Oh, all the time.
Oh, okay. People forget. Lovely, amazing Final Fantasy chat informed me of what 1.0 was like. 'Cause I have no clue. I didn't jump in until Shadowbringers. I didn't know that at 1.0 you couldn't jump. I didn't know at 1.0 there were no chocobo mounts. There was no white mage in 1.0. Of course, that game needed a complete redo. You couldn't even hit spacebar. New World didn't have those issues. New
Right.
World had a perfectly functioning game. It just needed content. It didn't need to be wiped off the face of the earth with a meteor and relaunched the whole new engine. It just needed content. So it did not need the Realm Reborn treatment. Very few games do nowadays.
I want to bring up swimming just because Soup brings it up because this was we were debating this last night on stream. I want to get your thoughts, namely because like if they add it, it's not going to break the
Yeah,
game for me.
whatever.
But you're in full armor and leather and all this stuff. You wouldn't like swimming. I don't think the game needs it, but
Oh,
I always counter when someone's like, "I'll come back when they add swimming." I was like, "Oh, okay, so you waited 7 years to play after A Realm Reborn because that's
mhm.
they added swimming in the third expansion, for 14. Like if
If
we're
they wanted
judging
to
it off
come
of that."
back, If they wanted to come back after swimming, go play an Olympic swimming simulator game. I don't know. You wanna swim? Go play a swim game. How about you go jump in a pool and swim?
I
Like
just hope they don't add
swimming is not
flying.
gonna make or break New World.
No, I just hope they don't add flying.
Yeah.
If they do like a kind of a porter where you kind of fly, that'd be
Mm.
fine. But like flying mounts would take, I think, so much away. They are adding mounts to New World. They are
Yep,
doing,
that's fine.
yeah. And I think ultimately, like in the end of it, like they're what I appreciate about New World is it's a beautiful experience. Like you really get immersed into it.
The
It's
world's awesome.
easy. It's easy to just
Mhm.
get in the world. And what I always say is like I step into the game and I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Meaning I go log in. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. And then
Yep.
every time I log out, it's always been this amazing adventure that's very organic. It's not like this, oh,
Yep.
I have to go do these things and then I have to go do these things. And then finally I can get to the fun. I just log in. I'm like, all right, what do I want to do? And just, you start
It's like
talking and you get going.
it's like what I enjoyed about RuneScape when I was a kid. In RuneScape, I can go and do whatever I want to do. Level woodcutting, go for it. Level combat, go for it. You do quests, go for it.
Mhm.
RuneScape was a beautiful giant sandbox. New World is a 3D version of RuneScape, and it gives you the ability to do all these different things. Now, in New World, it's far too simple to level professions. It just is. It's just so man. I'm 200 everything, and I didn't even like break a sweat. Like it's so easy, and it feels like it devalues max level crafting in that game. I don't know. I wish it was a bit
There,
harder.
there is some work that needs to definitely be tweaked. I
Mhm.
can definitely. I'm not even max level crafting because I've never been a big crafter, but I'm a huge proponent of it. And the
Yep.
fact that crafters can make end game, best in slot equipment, I think is a value driven aspect to like
It's an
why would you
interesting way.
invest that?
It's a very
But
interesting way.
it's too I think a little bit too RNG from all the high end crafters that talk to me. They're like, yeah, I wish that you're right. Like in terms of like, okay, now you've done this and now you can maybe unlock a little bit more ability to control your output or something. I don't
There
know.
are two ways New World could have gone about preventing people from simply crafting best in slot like that, right?
Mhm.
The one way is the way they did it at launch, which was crafting where it was mathematically more likely to be struck by lightning than to craft something with resilient, a weapon perk, and shirking fortification, for example.
Mhm.
Or you can craft 100%, but the mats, the drops are very, very, very hard to come by. Where you're
Mhm.
sitting there smacking a boss over and over and over, like in like man, the old Diablo 2 days, waiting for that 0.1% chance to drop the mat you need to give shirking fortification guarantee to the thing you want to do. Those are the two ways you could have done it. What would have felt better? RNG in crafting or RNG in farming the materials? I don't know. Those are the only two ways I can think of to appropriately gate the amount of craftable best in slot gear that game has to offer.
Mhm.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
which is better.
Yeah. It's hard, right? And thankfully that's not my job to solve. It's like
Bingo.
I'm
Yep.
just like here to have fun and
Yep.
play, etc. But there's some interesting things. Like I think what we're seeing here is I made a video like in the spring called "Why Everyone Is Wrong About New World,"
Mhm.
and it just is like, oh man, like I made it fully with my shield up, ready for
Yep.
all the hate that all came, and now it's really great that I'm like I know that I was going to make that because I
Yeah.
don't think people are actually paying attention to New World. I
Nope.
call it like as Vinny was saying, like yeah, all the data now, all the analysis around MMOs. I'm like, I don't think people are actually paying
Mhm.
attention. They're using what other companies have done to justify what they think this company will do
Yep.
when this company does not need for money and at the same time is doing things that Microsoft is concerned by. Like, all right,
Yeah,
like they're
absolutely.
stepping into this space. Like whether they do it or don't, it's a matter of like if they continue this pathway, New World is going to be just fine.
Oh, yeah, it'll be
Be-
fine.
and what I think we're starting to see is that now if they go and announce a like, hey, let me just ask this rather than just like
Sure.
pontificate. Do you want to see a paid expansion or do you want to see like a No Man's Sky kind of rebirth of this? Because you brought up the ARR thing.
Mm,
It personally annoys me as a 1.0 player because
yep,
they actually got 1.0 to a pretty good state, but I don't think sandboxes is appealing. I think a sand park is the best way forward for the
yep.
MMO. Anyway, what do you want to see with like the future and what kind of business model do you want to see?
When I made my video talking about how New World hates its players, I was
Yeah. It's a
just
great video, by
generally
the way.
I
I
was
just
overall just angry with the way the developers have handled their game and brought it to the point from 900,000 concurrent to like 9,000 concurrent, and how it just seems like they didn't build the game for anybody. Just kind of felt that way. But after I made that video, I talked to my Final Fantasy chat about New World. I outlined what they should do to bring him back. It was basically what they have been doing, which is fantastic. Is first and foremost, you got to make updates to this game that no one's going to care about. You got to fix things, and you're going to put on all this hard work and add all this content and all these bug fixes and all these things, and no one's going to care about it except the 9 to 20,000 people that are here right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have fixed the foundation of the game, the initial leveling experience, they're doing that right now. PvP, all these things. Once you fix all this, launch a hype expansion. But if you launch a hype expansion without fixing the underline, everyone will come back, play it for 20 minutes, and then leave.
Yeah, and the expansion won't even be out because
Yep.
like what we see when I look at 14, I look at 14 how it changed the model and it releases content. It used to do every 3-ish months. Now it's going to be every 4-ish months. But ultimately, I know there's content on the way. They don't let you fester long enough in the unknown. Let you like, oh, I finished all the content. What do I need to wait for? And like me, I can always say, well, here in 2 months, we're going to get this, and this. And then in 4 months after that, we're going to get that, and that. And it ends up giving you the ability to say, yeah, take a break and come back and, like come back when you want, step away when you want. You're not going to be punished for it. But more content is always on the hype cycle in a mini sense. And then the expansion is the bigger sense. As soon as they announce 7.0, you're going to see just massive growth in 14.
Absolutely.
And as you're right, as soon as they announce, if they announce a paid expansion this month, next month, whenever, like I even messaged my contact over at Amazon. I was like, listen, if you guys think the numbers that are coming back right now are insane, if you do that, just get ready, buckle up, because you're going to see so many people, because the expansion also acts as a promise and it's an action, not a word. People don't trust AGS's words.
Yep.
But if you just sit here and say, all right, don't trust us, this is what we're going to do. And now we did it. And now we're going to keep doing it. It gives me the ability to say, yeah, you should spend time in this game.
Yep.
It's going to be paid off. You're not going to find yourself getting the game shut down. And that's the big fear that keeps people from even experiencing it or even checking it out again.
Yeah, like a big patch is great. A big Brimstone Sands patch is fantastic, a new zone, all that jazz. But you can't market that because you're not going to make a whole lot of money because most of the people that are going to experience it have already bought the game, right? That's where expansions are beautiful. Because if you say we are selling a whatever dollar expansion, you now have a marketing budget because you're about to have transactions and receive money in return for that expansion. So there is value in that because without the financial benefit of the expansion, they don't have the marketing budget to push the fact that, hey, this game is much better than it once was.
Yeah.
So once they've fixed this game as they have been doing, and it is much better than it once was, even the crafting, my goodness, I cannot wait to see the numbers this game will do. When that hype expansion trailer drops and people come back in droves, all of a sudden they're adding new servers and people realize upon playing it, prepping for the expansion, wait, this game's actually good now. This new look at Everfall. It's beautiful. Look at this place. It's beautiful. The new zones, the new cities, are beautiful now. Not just mud huts and stick walls and stuff. It's fantastic. So I can't wait until that happens. It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how it's received because for some people it's still not gonna be the one. I think we'll see the hype, come in, bring people in, and then people will step away.
Yep.
I don't know how long it's going to take for the numbers not to actually really matter. People we value them because we don't trust AGS, in my opinion. And as soon as like, oh yeah, AGS, they put out an update every quarter and here's the cool content. And I know that an expansion's we just don't know what the model is. And Suit's pointing out in chat that a lot of people also look at the projects that AGS canceled. And it was like, yeah, like the one thing was Crucible, which was actually, I think, the right call to cancel that game. Like it was just like, I tried to enjoy it. I was like, no, there's just nothing here that's interesting.
Trust
and
in the MMO space, period. And then trust in the gaming space feels so empty and so low.
Yeah.
After everything Blizzard has done in the past 12 to 18 months, Blizzard was the gold star. They were the golden child. They were the standard. Like, playing a Blizzard game meant something.
Yeah.
And I can't bring myself to play Blizzard games now because of everything they have done outside of the games in the past 18 months. It's hard for people in general to trust gaming companies. EA, on and on and on. The monetization practices of all these games and on and on and on. So trust is at an all-time low. So how do you fix that? I don't know.
I think essentially it's just stop talking and start doing. I think actions speak way louder than words, and like words, it's interesting because we can kind of, I want to ask one question before we talk a little bit more about the social media aspect, but
sure.
I do see the sense that like things written down, there's just this whole, I don't know. Sometimes it's a mess. Like, you see a negative comment and you put more value into that comment because it's written down, as opposed to if somebody was just walking by, like, you suck, be like, F you, dude. Like, all right, my day is not ruined. But like reading that in a comment feels really random and official. And so
There's a
I think,
secret.
oh, yeah.
There's a secret. You don't read your comments. You literally, as a content creator, do not read your comments. And on top of that, you go into your community settings and you automatically block every single word you don't like, including the word copy. I hate the word copy. You copied this YouTuber, you copied that YouTuber. The word copy is automatically banned in my settings. So I don't even see the comments that use the word copy in them, as an example, for your mental health.
You know, I want to know a secret.
What's your secret?
I'm working on a plugin that literally will read comments and allow me to associate and rank like commenters. And so for people who comment often, giving them a level, because essentially it's like, if you watch a lot of my videos, YouTube does not give me the ability to see any history. So if it would be really nice to say like, oh, okay, oh, this is a comment. Oh, this is like, oh, Brian, like I really didn't resonate with what you were trying to say here. Maybe I wasn't clear. Maybe I was just being like angry. I don't know. But it'd be nice to kind of say, oh, they've commented before. And it's like, oh yeah, we've had these really good conversations. I should weigh that heavier than somebody who's like, because people come in like, I watched all your videos, you're an asshole, and I'm gonna kill you. It's like, okay, like, well, I've never seen your name before, right? So it's like, ideally, my solution, I was like, I'm a software engineer, I can fix this. Like, YouTube's like not giving me the tools. I need these tools. So I'm looking at doing that, and ultimately to be able to start to. The idea is that if it's successful and it can actually work in this regards, and I get it work for me, to be able to then share it out from a content creation perspective, because I don't want it to become like a winch hunting tool, because it could easily boil down into that. But imagine if like someone's like, oh, this guy says all these like racist and homophobic things to Brian all the time, and then he comments also on your video because he can, and then you would be able to see like, oh man, this guy's like a real jerk, like to other people on the internet, just giving you the knowledge is power kind of mindset. So I'm working on that, and a lot of people are going to have a pretty bad day if it ends up like being successful, because I was like, all right, let's do this. I'm tired of giving somebody air when they're just there to try to create chaos and trying to basically trying to identify the bad apples through like a kind of a community tool.
You said so many things and I have so many comments on all the things. Okay, if someone is capable of being racist or whatever multiple times, how is that even a thing? One time you're gone. Also, on top of that,
right,
the block mechanic on YouTube is beautiful. It's called shadow blocking or shadow banning. They don't know they're banned. If you hide a user on the channel, they don't know they're hidden. They still see their
start
comments.
Taking notes.
They still see their comments on YouTube. When they log in and they go to your video, they can see their comment right there, but no one else does. They're screaming into the void. That is what hide user does on YouTube.
Doesn't that though create a situation in which that they're just going to get angrier and angrier and angrier?
They can say what they want. No one will see it.
Right, but still, like, that's the problem I see in social media, is that it ends up being a lot of people just feeling like they're yelling into the void. And I don't know, like,
you're the YouTuber, you're the content creator, your mental health is paramount, so you can continue to do your job, right? And your job is to create the best content possible. And the best way to know whether you're creating the best content possible is to look at your statistics, your average view duration, and your click-through rate. We're getting really nitty-gritty here, everybody.
Yeah.
Those two things are literally everything on YouTube, as well as a topic you're talking about. If the topic's up, it won't matter. Somebody commenting that they liked your video or didn't like your video is not going to help you in any way whatsoever to make better content. Comments, I love comments. I love going through them and talking to people just for fun. But in terms of making decisions on content strategy, they're useless. Here's an example. I have a YouTube channel called Crow, if people who are just coming in now. On that channel, I pull in millions of views a month. I make multiple pieces of content a month, get lots of comments a month. If a video gets 100 comments and those 100 comments say, this sucks, you suck, everything sucks, and there's 100 negative comments, and yet 100,000 people have watched it, what does that mean? 99,900 people watched it, enjoyed it, and didn't say a thing.
Yeah.
The data, the statistics, the numbers are far more important than the comments. Do not let comments drive your decision making on content strategy.
It doesn't drive my decision making. Essentially, I've decided that I mean, it doesn't anymore. One of the things, like I was getting some hate on one of my other channels, and saying that I was like, it was awful stuff, like just the worst. And I was like, all right, like I've stopped pulling my punches on 14, because I was like, it's just not worth the energy of dealing with these people. but yet then they're still here. They're still being negative. They're still coming in and, reporting me for like, I mean, legitimately trying to report me, get me banned off YouTube. And I was like, all right, fine. Y'all want to play? You think that, you want to say like, we were only going to let people talk about 14 in a positive way? Screw that. Not everything's great about this game. Buckle up. And it's been very, very, very freeing. And the like to dislike ratio, yeah, it's about what I expect, but it's
dislikes are positive things.
Well,
dislikes are positive things.
Yeah.
YouTube sees dislikes on a video, it pushes it.
Yeah.
It's engagement. YouTube does not care what kind of engagement it gets. It gets engagement. It's good. Dislikes are good. If you have controversial content, that's good. People love it.
Right. And so to give you like, and I was talking about this in kind of my members only video today, because it's something that I'm gonna kind of like break down and share, is like, I'm pouring myself into 14 and making like the guides and the controller stuff and etc. And the nice thing about having all my content kind of divided across different channels, with 14 being a direct channel and with New World being a direct channel, New World brought in $300 for me, just kind of like saying, hey, here's this and here's that. Now, that was great. Like, this is like that money. Like, I have only used YouTube money twice in my career. Both times I had COVID. Every time it usually goes to helping kids and charity and things like that. I don't like publicly share where all the money goes to, because my grandfather was like, he says the best charity is the invisible charity, not like, hey, I'm being charitable,
Yes.
And so that's the kind of a lesson I take into account. So there's only been 2 months, but now my hours have all been reduced, so that's just been down. So like money like this can actually kind of help weather the storm until I pick up some more contract work. And I was sitting here looking at it and I was like, I am doing like, I love New World. I'm playing New World. I'm talking about the news and the guides. I'm not pushing like, oh, hey guys, all this stuff. And they're like, YouTube's like, this is great content. We're gonna pay you for that. And then I'm doing like, here's these guides that I pour like 600 hours into making a single guide on 14. And you know how much I made off of my 14 content?
Not as much.
$40.
Yep.
40. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm still going to do the 14 content. I'm still going to make the guides. Like, that's something that like, this has always been a passion project, but then hands down, I was like, I am not sharing these opinions and these views that I have of the game because I'm tired of just the abuse. And then the abuse just says, hey, screw you. We're just going to remind you how much you suck as a human being. And I said, great. I'm going to remind you how perfect or imperfect this game is. And we're going to see who gets tired first. Because Lord knows I could talk forever.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Boom, baby. So
remember, you are the content creator. You set the culture from the top. You're the CEO of this company. Okay. That's what you are. So if you don't want that kind of culture, you can control it and make sure that kind of culture is quiet and doesn't exist.
I'll let you know when I decide, because like legitimately my approach is like, if I can classify things and then I can manage things a little bit cleaner, in that regards. And because like, oh gosh, I struggle with that. The people screaming into the void, because one of the things, and this is my personality, like I make this stuff, like I live stream as a social thing. I don't go to bars. I don't hang out with a bunch of guys. I got kids.
A couple of introverts. It is what it is.
Yeah, but it's like to sit back and play with a bunch of friends, like how I feel about it. That's the true joy that I get in the experience. And it's like a lot of that comes from me saying hi back, as opposed to like, oh, mate, watch my videos and blah, blah, blah. But
I have new mods on my streams who are just getting to know me now. My old mods know this very well. My new mod had a situation where somebody was being very inappropriate with her, to the point where the language was exceptionally rude. And she DM'd me and she's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, ban them. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm gonna make this very clear. If they would talk to me that way, I would ban them. So if they're gonna talk to you that way, you ban them. I want my chat a certain way. I want my comment section, my videos a certain way. It's called respect. And if that respect can't be held, you're not welcome. I do not need to hear people talk about all sorts of isms or horrible topics in I'm not interested. That's not my culture. And I do not need to make content for everybody. I'm making content for people that want my content. It's not for everybody.
So I got a question for you, because we kind of got off on a little bit of a YouTube kind of discussion. But when it comes down to, oh yeah, it's just getting warmed up. When you hear the phrase, this game respects my time.
I like this one.
What does that mean to you?
It's all about the end goal. Let's give you a quick example. I'm playing World of Warcraft. There's a reputation to grind. The grind could be 100 hours. At the end of that grind is a beautiful mount. Oh, just a top tier cosmetic reward. And anybody who gets that They go, "Yeah, I got that." And people look and go, "Wow, what a beautiful cosmetic reward. They put in 100 hours to get that. That's
Mhm.
awesome." Okay? Let's talk about another one. World of Warcraft, attuning to a dungeon. 10 hours. 10 hours of grinding to give you the privilege of going into the dungeon to do more grinding. Which one feels worse?
Well, the one that in my mind that would be doing the thing so you can continue to do the thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why does that feel like you're wasting time and yet something that is 10 times more hours doesn't? It's all about what happens at the end of the road.
Mhm.
A grind that is there just for the purposes of perpetuating the grind so that you can go and do something else that's more grind, it's wasting your time. But people love, and those like yourself, myself,
Mhm.
love to grind when at the end of it, there's this amazing and worthwhile reward to you. So wasting my time, it's an MMO. Entertainment is time wasting, to be frank.
Yeah.
You could
Mhm.
be writing a book, you could be learning piano, you could be working a second job, a third job, making more money, spending time with your family. Entertainment is meant to waste your time. But Asmongold has that beautiful quote. I want to feel like I want to waste my time and not have my time wasted.
Mhm.
Something in that regards. It has to feel like it's valuable to you. So an MMO or a game that respects your time rewards you appropriately for the time spent. I think that's everything. I think that's the most important thing is the reward at the end of the time being used.
Yeah. I like to always kind of look at it and also in terms of the pathway for that reward
Mhm.
because the reward in and of itself could be less than if there's also multiple pathways of varying speed to
Mhm.
do said grind. Obviously, like gamers will optimize the fun out of anything, and
Oh, for sure.
they'll like, hey, we're gonna go the optimum route. But what I
Mhm.
always kind of enjoy, so I like the XP system. I think it's like, yeah, if you got to do the dungeon, but if there's like other things that you were doing that could also then add
Mhm.
progression, it ends up feeling like I actually have choice in how I approach the goal,
Mhm.
as opposed to like there's one path, this is the one path. And I get why there's usually one path because optimization balance, it's easier saying, okay, you do this, you get that easy, as opposed to like, okay, you do this, and we're going to make three pathways. One's our normal pathway
Yep.
that's 10, 10 dungeons or whatever. But if you
Yes.
want to go do 100 daily quests, that's going to
Mhm.
get you, 1/10 of the way. That's
Yep.
also
Choice is
equivalent. And
good.
so that way it's like, oh, I'm doing all these other things. And then I end up getting to benefit from that. That's actually when I look at like Eureka versus Boja.
Mhm.
I enjoyed the Boja experience, while I think the Eureka zones were way better.
Yep.
Boja's experience was nice because as a part of that grind, it actually let you say, hey, you can go also do this or this or this. Like I felt like, well, I don't have time to go jump into Boja today, but I can still go run
Mhm.
my roulette, and that's going to get me this, and that's going to, offset some of that time that I'll have to do later. And I just appreciated the pathways forward. So I didn't feel like I was having time wasted that it,
Yep.
but that's always a weird thing I see people say. Go ahead.
I was talking about 14 gave me two more topics regarding this that we can talk about.
Yeah.
So in Shadowbringers, there's a couple of sections in there that I felt like my time was wasted. And I realized after talking to chat that this was quite subjective. It's an individual thing. For me, the segment in Shadowbringers where you are dealing with the trolley and that entire zone felt like a complete waste of my time. I
Mm.
was complaining the entire time. Why am I doing this? Running around. This is all stupid. Let's get back to the real story. And yet another content creator, I believe his name is Preach, adored the trolley section of Shadowbringers. So one, time wasting and the concept of whether your time is wasted or not is definitely subjective.
Mm. The what mistakes do you think the MMO genre as a whole has made over the last 20 years?
I don't think it's made too many. I think what's happened is gaming has evolved and gamers have evolved. MMOs 20 years ago, beginning of World of Warcraft, for example, think about vanilla WoW and the options you had to do. The
Mhm.
things you could technically do in the game weren't that many, right? PvP wise, there was nothing there. On and on and on. But games have evolved so far and there's so many choices now. Like, sorry, I thought of one. I thought of one major mistake. It's monetization. Monetization. That is the Achilles heel. It's agreed. A business's job existence is to make money. That's the
Mhm.
purpose. And a businessman is judging his career path and how much money he makes. So monetization. for MMOs and for gaming in general is the true fault, the true black mark on gaming. Game design, setting, mechanics, systems, those can come and go, and those change based off of taste and based off of individual value and perception. But monetization has gotten to a point where it almost feels like, I hate saying this, but government agencies should step in and prevent and save the consumer from the manipulative psychological tactics that these companies can execute to extract monetization from people.
Is the subscription model for MMOs the future?
It's a future. It works. I like it because it keeps the player base a certain type of person and prevents people from using hacks and mods and cheating, because then they're forking out money all the time for these accounts over and over and over and forking out the sub fee. It kind of slows them down a little bit and helps. I also don't mind a box cost game. I don't mind that either. I don't even mind free to play. I don't even mind free to play with cosmetic microtransactions. It's tough. I personally am very susceptible to gotcha for power. I am very susceptible. I'm the kind of person who will throw a credit card at a game for increase in power for competitive PvP. I know it, and I stop touching those games because I keep falling into those pits. I prefer a game with a sub cost, but I don't think it's necessary.
Do you think the sub cost is actually holding back the genre?
It's holding back the available player base, and thereby I think the numbers are there. Free to play with microtransactions makes money hand over fist with massive player bases in comparison to sub cost, box cost games. It's just the truth. It's just the cold, hard facts. So it holds back a business's potential monetization, potential player base. So it depends on the business. Someone like Steven Sharif, who's running After the Creation, I kickstarted that game years ago.
How many years by now is it?
Oh yeah, I've been following it very closely. I used to run a podcast for the game. I've been following very closely, and I'm enjoying the progress in the past little while. Ever since the switch to UE5.
When does that game launch for you?
Alpha 2, I bet you launches spring, if I had to guess, and then full release 25.
Yeah.
There's no rush. Rush.
Yeah,
it's
we're in the
funded,
same
there's
boat.
no rush.
Yeah.
Anyways, Steven Shreve is going with no box cost, sub cost, cosmetic monetization model. And I like that. He could make money hand over fist if he didn't do that. But he doesn't want to because he is an MMO gamer at heart. He grew up in ArcAge and he wants to build the MMO for him. So for him, it is sub fee to prevent certain types of people from playing, from cheating, from hacking. And then cosmetic store for cosmetics or whatever. I'm fine with most of those things. But ultimately, if business wants to make the most money and have the largest player base, free to play model is the only answer for them.
Yeah, I see an interesting kind of future in which that we see maybe a subscription that is a bundled subscription, like you get one sub that covers multiple MMOs, just to kind of keep that income flowing in.
Microsoft buy Blizzard?
They are in the process of that, and so we wonder if Game Pass will end up doing that.
Possible,
or if we'll see like a World of Warcraft, like a Game Pass Plus MMO, because
Possible.
ESO, they have ESO as well, and ESO has an optional sub that players who are hardcore like, no, it's not optional because
I think BDO is something like that too.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
So like, and then PSO 2 has an optional kind of sub that you could have that gives you some benefits and perks, and so like you're seeing more and more having that flexibility. What do you think the model that New World is gonna kind of take? We haven't really heard much, and they said they're going to talk to us about it this year. I know there's a lot of pay to win.
I hate to say this.
Yeah,
I think the only reason we have not seen an item in the store that could guarantee a second perk in crafting is because the player base dropped so drastically that if New World went down that monetization route, it would kill the game completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm afraid once they fix the base level of the game, which they're working on, and it's coming along beautifully, and once they launch that hype expansion, which is probably down the road, and the player base goes from 30,000 concurrent to 100,000, 200,000 concurrent, wherever it gets to, I'm scared of where their monetization model may go and how they may give you additional carrying capacity. All the pay for convenience kind of things. I'm scared to see what they might do. And if they go down that road, I don't know.
What would be your ideal model for New World?
Free to play with monetization for cosmetics only. They can make their money hand over fist that way. But man, I hate the fact that it's free to play because then people who want to hack it and do the horrible things and all the side-handed things can just keep making new accounts, which is a pain in the butt.
Right.
Gold
Just
sellers just keep making
endless,
new accounts.
endless. Right. There's
So
no because there's no, but there's also no cost to them to do that. That's why,
Mhm.
like for me, like the ideal future is buy to play. Blue Protocol is announced as a free to play MMO.
Yep.
And it's announced, and I'm like, gosh, just put $20 up front,
Yep.
just so that it's
Slow
like
people
you want to
down.
be a jerk, you want to go and try to
Mhm.
ruin other people's fun.
Yep.
It's gonna cost you at least $20, and you're funding the game that I'm liking.
Yep.
You know, what are your thoughts about like a concept of a battle pass in an MMORPG?
It's fine. As long as the battle pass is cosmetic only, who cares? People want to do it, go nuts. People don't want to do it, go nuts. As soon as you start putting useful things behind a battle pass, whether that's carrying capacity, inventory slot space, better crafting materials, blah, 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 then you start to damage the game's integrity. If
Mhm.
it's just cosmetic and the cosmetics are good, but the armor you can find in game is also good, like, I don't care. Go nuts.
Yeah,
That's
that's actually kind of that's what I think the battle pass could work in the MMO as that
mm,
optional sub. My hope is that it has a decent progression track,
mm,
meaning like it's not like this you got to go do this specific thing so
right.
that you can move up a tier,
Yep.
and at the same time that you if you buy it, you get to keep it, because MMO players aren't like the Fortnite side of it, like where it's like, yeah,
Mm,
like I'm coming in here and I'm going to go about the grind. I don't need FOMO added in just to make things just wild and crazy and stuff like that. So that's my hope. That's my fear. That's where we're, we'll have to wait and see. But I think the battle pass along with buy to play could end up being a really good thing, because then you have a cosmetic reward track. It gives
yep.
you content to do. And even they talked about it in a light way that they've been considering it. And this was
Mm,
like over a year ago. So who knows? But I think you're right. I think you have to get New World into that like really stable. Gamers are excited. There's, okay, we know that there's more content and
yep.
expansions or whatever they do coming. Hey, now let's actually say like, well, how can we fund this game more so
Yes.
that you've delivered on what you've stated and promised that
Mhm.
you were shooting for.
Yep. Absolutely.
Now, on that note, that is essentially the questions that I have. We could do a FMK if you want. I don't know how much time you have. I don't want to keep
Define
you.
FMK.
The murder, kill, and then whatever as
Oh
a
my goodness. Sure, why
yeah
not? Let's do it. Why not?
SMK or
Yep,
something like that.
I'm down.
All right. So, what would be your top 3 MMOs? I would say Final Fantasy, New World, and World of Warcraft. Unless you want to substitute in
So,
RuneScape,
I have played BDO, SWOTOR. I've played a bunch of MMOs over the course of time. All
yeah.
right, so if I had to kill an MMO, it would be BDO. I
Oh, okay.
enjoyed my time playing that game, but the pay to win was blatant. You could spend dollars on costumes, sell those costumes in the market, get money, buy gear, buy power. It was blatant pay to win. And that's brutal. So I would kill BDO. Um, F is going to be Final Fantasy 14 because I F that story so hard. Everything about it. The emotional attachment I have to the characters, to the music, to everything about that world is phenomenal. I don't even know what Final Fantasy is like as an MMO. I've barely touched any MMO aspect of that game. I
I,
enjoyed it
I don't
thoroughly as an
classify.
RPG, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful as an RPG. I
Yeah.
will F that game all day long. Mary, right now it's New World, I think.
Huh.
'Cause it's the MMO I play because I want to log in and go hunt people in the real world. Like
Yeah.
just run around and go and then fight PvP, go into OPR, go to a fort. What I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the open world. I love running around gathering hemp. I've been gathering hemp the past week, just running around in circles, picking up plants. I don't know what it is. I just love the feel, the way it moves, the movement, the combat, everything about it. My biggest gripe with 14 biggest red 14 is the DPS classes. The reason why I play a tank. The DPS classes have like 2-minute long openers with 37 abilities, and I'm 35-year-old boomer who does not want to spend the time to try and perfect those openers. So I'm obsessive.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing it, I have to do it 100%, 110%. So I play a tank because the rotations are much easier for my brain to figure out while I'm also streaming and talking all that jazz.
Well, you
You
also
rotate.
have tank privilege of survivability. You have faster
Yes.
queue times. Like it just is
Yes.
like why? Like I'm like, oh, you play a DPS like that. I was like that in and of itself is interesting. I was like that feels like it's actually the hardest job
Mhm.
in 14, the hardest role. People are like DPS is so easy. I was like, I don't think so.
I feel like I can't appreciate 14's fights and world and story if I'm spending too much darn time worrying about my rotation and also not standing in the bad. I just I love New World's 6 abilities. It allows me to actually focus on dodging, blocking, maneuvering, positioning. It's wonderful. Less is more sometimes.
Mhm.
Less is more sometimes. It's fantastic. I would marry New World currently.
Yeah.
Where does Ashes of Creation fall in that
Yeah,
spectrum?
that's my next
I'm
question.
I'm really there's a lot to be excited about, but I'm also not 100% sure if that's going to be the game for me. It doesn't have everything. No MMO has everything I need. I need Final Fantasy level story. I need it to actually care about the characters and therefore care about the game above and beyond just being a world. I
Mhm.
need it. I need New World's combat and fluidity and movement, which is so close to BDO without the pay to win of BDO. It's beautiful. It is. I'm never gonna get it, and it's just too bad.
Have you been following, Pantheon and or, like, Blue Protocol or any of the other, MMOs on the horizon?
No, because I'm also realizing on top of everything I just said that being 35, being a YouTuber, not a streamer, not an
Yeah.
MMO YouTuber, but actually a gaming YouTuber first and foremost. That's my career path. I'm realizing as I get older that MMOs are becoming less and less important to me. That my obsession with perfecting my life has become my new MMO. Going to the gym, spending time with my daughter, building my YouTube career, like these types of things, a new house and hobbies. I finally bought Magic the Gathering cards for the first time since I sold them to build my first YouTube channel. I'm actually enjoying hobbies for the first time in 7 years. So I'm realizing that I'm enjoying the world more than I am MMOs. And I'm falling slowly out of my that need to escape into another world. It's strange. So I've not been following all these. I don't even know if I'm gonna play Ashes of Creation. I might play it when it comes out, but then stop. I'm falling out of love with the MMORPG space, which is why Final Fantasy 14 shocked me. That story, like it's
Yeah.
everything. It was
Well,
so
and
good.
that's where, like, I classify 14 as an RPG MMO.
Oh, for
And
sure.
I've seen other people adopt that moniker, which I think is really important. It's like, I say that people have given me grief because they feel like it's an insult. I was like, this is a compliment to the game
Yeah.
and the design. Is that it is you can play this as a Final Fantasy game, and you can go about your day, and you don't need to invest in the MMO aspects. My critique and my frustration with 14 is it feels like they have obviously leaned more into the story, and we've seen
Mm,
less and less MMO aspects that I
mhm.
actually appreciate. But I'm really excited about the Criterion dungeons and some of the
Yep.
things that I know I've been asking for since
Mhm.
Heaven's Word. So there's definitely things that I'm like, oh yeah, October is going to be great. And
Yep.
then New World announces Brimstone Sands update in October, and I'm like, oh please, for the love of everything good in this world,
Yep.
don't be on the same week. I can't handle that. I can't. I don't have enough time to take off work
Yep.
to sit back and be like, all right, guys, I'm gonna play this for 8 hours, and I'm gonna play this for 8 hours. Maybe if I was younger, maybe in a different a different life,
Or much
um,
older with your kids
or
moving
much
out of the
older.
house.
Yeah, the kids are grown. Well, hell, like I'll get them. Like that's been my raid plan. I'll just like,
Mhm.
build my own raid team. Get them like, all right, guys, family that raids together stays
Wonderful.
together. Let's do
Wonderful.
this thing. So that's been my game plan. So we're
Mhm.
we're moving along, rocking and rolling on that plan itself. I haven't touched the Island Sanctuary update because I have absolutely no interest in it. Somebody was
Mm.
saying like, hey, like should New World have this? And I go, new
Mm.
that is New World. Like
Yeah.
the entire game is like you have this island that you're on and you're kind
Mhm.
of like cultivating, etc. But
Would love to
yeah,
see New World do a bit more with its housing. It
yeah,
doesn't seem very. I mean, decorating is nice and all, but it doesn't seem very rewarding or interesting.
it's
And
the
the
outside of
houses
the
are all the
trophies.
same.
Yeah, outside the
Mhm.
trophies, I'm just like
Yep.
whatever. Well, and I don't even decorate my house in 14. I
Mhm.
have people do that for me. Like I'm like
Yep.
I don't. I this wall was done by Chris.
Yeah.
And then we just actually got the Buster Sword for Christmas. So we just
Very nice.
recently, but we got that for Christmas, and I literally hung that up last week. So it's
Very cool.
like it's like I'm just that is not my skill set. So translating that into a virtual world, I'm with you. Like I'm doing bike riding with the kids and
Mhm.
working out and just trying to
Yep.
take part in the real world, especially after being kind of locked down for the last 2 years. But anyway, where can people find you? What do you got coming up that people can be excited about? Obviously, you got multiple channels, so man, floor is yours.
My so right now, my primary focus is Kro. It's a gaming YouTube channel. There's no face cam, maximum editing. You commented recently that you just saw the level of editing that goes into that content. That's all me. There
Mhm.
was a time when I had an editor, but right now it's all me. That is my primary focus. When I have free time, I would like to stream, but as I discussed with you just now, I'm realizing that I'm falling out of need for MMOs. So what do I stream moving forward? It's a great question. Do I need to stream? I don't know. But ultimately, with the Krojak channel, I don't have a plan right now. I do not have a dedicated plan right now. I don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
When a new hype expansion drops for 14, you know I'm going to be there because I love the story. If Ashes of Creation does ever get released, it's not just simple vaporware. I'm probably going to take a look at that, and we're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. But
if it is vaporware, like that is
it
just
can't
going to
be
be
like
it
the
can't, it
size of
can't,
that
but,
team and what we're seeing. Like,
there's lots of red flags, dude. Like there's like the software engineer, when I hear like them talk, I'm like, ooh, like, okay, that's like they're spinning it in a positive light, and maybe it is, but I'm like, I've been in those situations. It's like, oh, you just hired 40 people. Well, then you're all slowing down, because how those 40 people aren't walking in going like, we know everything we're doing.
Exactly everything. We know what colors to like to use. We know all the stuff, how the software works. We know it all.
Yeah. How do I request time off? Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, so I was like, but those aren't necessarily like the, like red flags don't mean failure. Red flags just mean like, I have concerns. And, until beta, like I'm just treating 2025 as a date until they tell me otherwise.
As a content creator, if you yourself ever have a dream of doing this as a full-time thing, this MMO space is not a fertile ground to grow a full-time YouTube channel. It's just not. There's not enough viewers. There's only so many Asmongols in the world. There's only so many Bellular games. There's only so many channels that can do this. So even for me, I spend so much time researching as a content creator, and I'm looking at the MMO space of all the people doing the things. I'm like, where do I fit? How do I fit? Do I make guides? Do I do impersonations? Do I do skits? Do I do this? I can't even find my own personal piece of the land of the MMO space in content creation. So you asked me earlier, what am I doing with Krojak? I don't know. I don't know if it's even possible for me. I'm not even certain. I'm still debating that. It's we should have some off-screen conversations. I could guide. Man, I would love for you to never have to work a day in your life at a real job and do what you do right here, right now, full time.
Oh man, there's a sense that like of dread that comes in. I love programming. Like if what I would do if this actually generated enough money, I would work and actually make my own games, because I've built games. Like that's actually what I went to school to do. And those would not be MMOs. Like we would be talking that there's no funding that I would ask the public for that, because it's like it's a massive risk. That's where it's like the fact that new MMOs are actually starting to come out after WildStar collapsed. It's like
it's crazy.
Well, interesting. Like that we're actually like I thought this genre was just gonna be like, yeah, we're kind of just on our way out.
Why would a developer make an MMORPG when they can just make another AFK arena for the phone? Right? Another beautiful mobile game with gotcha, pay to win, pay for power mechanics that can just make them money hand over fist.
Easy.
Why would business do that?
Right. Like Brian, hey, what kind of game do you want to make? Well, I'd like to make this kind of game, but if I was actually like trying to provide for my family, I'd make I'd make a free to play.
Greatest chance of success is not an MMORPG.
Right. And the fact that we're actually getting those makes me wonder if there's just data we don't have.
It takes crazy people like Steven who just adore it and have money and just want to see it happen. It takes those kinds of people right now.
So why AGS? Why are they investing so heavily in MMOs, in your opinion?
I think
this is the weirdest outro wrap up ever. I love it.
Big companies can take risks because sometimes they pay off. Facebook has paid, myself included, tons of people money to make gaming videos for Facebook to try and bring a young audience to Facebook, and it's falling on its face. It's falling on its face. Big companies can afford to take those risks because once in a blue moon, every 10, 15, 20 risks, someone's going to pay off big time.
Yeah.
Right? League of Legends making their own MMO right now with their beautiful world. I'm very curious to see how they're going to do that. They're taking a risk.
Yeah.
So Amazon can take the risk. They can afford the risk. They can say, here's 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever. Here's a budget. Go nuts. See if you can pull something out of a hat. Because they don't need it to succeed because they have all their other businesses. They can afford the loss.
It's interesting. I just see that because they're also working on making more internal Throne of Liberty. Like it's like, I honestly, my fan theory is that they're looking to try and either spin off Prime Gaming as its own direct competitor to Game Pass and subscriptions, or bundle it in a new tier, or increase the cost of Amazon Prime itself to basically say, hey, why wouldn't you have Amazon Prime? Because you get all these MMO goodness, all these games of service goodness. So they're already doing that in part, but how do you get that to be where you can justify that as its own product? So if they ever do that, I hope somebody clips this and then it's like, oh my God, Brian called it right again. We have to stop this guy. He keeps bringing us the truth.
Getting the W's.
Getting those dubs.
Getting it right.
Anyway, link I know I have Krojak linked specifically, but I'll go also link Crow on this podcast as well. That way people can find you and all your content. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up and I run the outro? And usually we end up just kicking to a post show where we either wrap up or answer questions with the community.
MMORPGs are in such an interesting space right now. And any new MMO coming out needs to have one thing that truly separates it from the pack. For 14, it was its exceptional story. For World of Warcraft, it's just straight nostalgia at this point. I do not know what Ashes of Creation or other MMOs can do to really feel different and to keep a player base. And I can't wait to see what these new MMOs come up with to separate themselves. What can the League of Legends MMO do to separate itself from World of Warcraft, from Final Fantasy, from New World, etc.? And can New World go full Phoenix and come out from a 9,000 concurrent and ever get to like 90 or 100,000 or 200,000 concurrent ever again? I can't wait to see what they're going to do.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't know what it's up. But basically, I look at it ceilings and floors. I think we've seen the floor of the game.
Yep.
And that's actually more the value of where that's where you build. Like, and because the 900 whatever the almost million was like that just number. People say they lost them. I was like, I don't think they ever had them. It was just like, oh, let me go taste this and then I'll go do whatever. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. Thanks so much for tuning into the live show. Be sure to like these videos. They help out immensely in the algorithm, or dislike, as we talked about here on the show. Subscribe to the MP3 version as well and leave a review. So that's a great way of helping the podcast get discovered. But until next time, guys, have a wonderful day and take care.
You are a natural at this.
Yeah, the Rory gets mad at me. I had Rory Khan on the podcast this morning, and he gets so mad at me because he's like, "How the heck do you do that?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I also been doing stand up, so it's just you have a natural sense of like, it's easy because I also see the time, so it's like, okay, I know I need to wrap it up itself. Casual Nerd, thank you so much for doing the upgrade at a tier 2 Vishap tier. Appreciate that, man. Sync, he has the voice. We actually got Sync Weaver coming up on the podcast as well. Cool. We got a couple of I got Force Gaming coming on the show, and then at the end of this month,
he's
that's gonna be, oh dude, like I love a big WoW guy. You're right, like I didn't play WoW, but WoW is such a it's like a language, right? Like that's where 14 also 1.0 struggled to give you kind of some insight. I didn't even bring this up on the show, and I meant to. Oh wow, and Casual Nerd gifting out 5 members. And hopefully you guys they're getting claimed. YouTube's weird with the system. There's free member content. Oh, I guess exclusive member content on the channel, guys. So grab those up and enjoy those, please. 14 and 1.0 and New World, outside of like a reborn moment, I tell you hands down, it's like they're the same game. Only New World knocked it out of the park. And despite its issues, right? 14 had this weapon swapping and the idea that your weapon was your class. New World, same kind of thing. 14 is a player-driven economy, sandbox, open world, but it was empty. And New World is like immersive and full. Here's the thing for me, and I'll let you go after this if you got to go. I don't want to keep you from your family. When I was a kid, I grew up in Nacogdoches. It was East Texas, trees like Louisiana, like just green, lush, etc. This whole time when I was like predicting the rise and fall of New World, like 18 months before it was out, I was like, guys, here's the path, here's what it's gonna do. I was like, it has no nostalgic hook. There's nothing
new IP,
right? There's no Final Fantasy. That's why I stuck around. I'm a Final Fantasy fan. I stuck around in 1.0, and I'm glad I did, right? But it was the nostalgic hook that kept me there. I dipped out of other MMOs. I was like, I'm really not having fun. I don't have a hook there. So that was it for me. And I was like, what is this? Like, what is the hook? I was asking this to myself. Why do I like New World so much that I'm willing to be like, guys, you guys are reading this one wrong. This is here's the tea leaves. Here's the data. Trust me, this is going to play out. And, it does. when I was running through the game, and there was a moment where like the moon breaks through the trees, and it was just like I was like, holy, I'm a curse, holy shit.
The world
And
rocks. It's awesome.
but it was like it took me back to being 5 years old in the back of my parents' Tempo as we're driving back late at night in the trees and the moons. And I was like, this reminds me of being a kid.
Yep.
And anything's possible. And so that was like, that's my nostalgic hook. That's the hook that I get with it. It's like it reminds me of my youth. And I was like, this is wild. And I was like, I just adore this game. It is unbelievable. I'm hoping that it's good. I hope they don't like go like pay to win. I just don't get the vibe from Scott though. Like if you're going to take them at their word, like I don't get that vibe. I don't get the vibe that that's how they want to go with the game. I think though, as AGS though, I think they'll have a wide selection of MMOs to offer that are pay to win, free to play, this or that. And then it's like, we don't care. You're in our sandbox. Like
I don't even like
and play, you know?
I don't even hate pay to win. I gotta be frank. I love competition. I adore competition. So there's a thing about pay to win. The certain type of person that wants to do that is looking for competition at the highest level. So for me, if I could spend $200 to make a perfect character, a top tier character, and then find another person who was also paid $200 to make a perfect top tier character, both of us are serious about this game. We put money into it. We're serious about it. We're hardcore. And then we can face off in one-on-one and see who wins. I love that. However, when you go full Diablo Immortal, see that, yeah. So there's a sliding scale of pay to win that I don't even mind, depending. And that's actually, we never got a chance to talk about this on the podcast. But what I love most about New World's PvP is that it's not normalized. That the time I spend building my character matters, as well as the skill I have in using that character matter equally in player versus player. It's like people want New World's PvP to be like go-karting, where everyone's got the same car on the track. I want it to be like Formula 1 or NASCAR, where the time and money I spend building my damn car matters almost as much as the driver driving the car.
Yeah. What would help that out immensely is that they get cross-server matchmaking done, because essentially the problem ends up being is that people are like, I'm waiting so long in the lower levels, because then you can experiment and there's, there really isn't risk. But I agree with you. There's a beauty in that. And because then it allows you to sit here and say, hey, my investment's paying off. And then, and then, you get your butt handed to you. And there is a level of normalization that happens. There is still the advantage that you have in perking and your stats, but it isn't. So I think a well-skilled player can, with a bad build, can still beat an unskilled player, even with a perfect build, hands down.
With the way dodging and moving is in this game, absolutely. And the game is normalized, and no one seems to realize it. Empower is capped at 50%. Fortify is capped at 50%. On and on and on. Crit's capped at 100%. Everything is capped. If I'm playing a musket with Mortal Empower of 15 stacks at 30%, and I use Empower shooting stance at another 45%, it doesn't get to 75. It stops at 50. You can only ever be so strong. You can only ever deal so much damage or prevent so much damage. There's caps. It is normalized to a point. People don't realize that. If my musket build, which I use for funsies when I'm bored, like if I was allowed to actually stack everything of Empower, the damage would be one-shotting people, but it doesn't. People always forget that part.
Yeah. Anyway, man, I'm going to go ahead and hit end broadcast here on the stream itself. Guys, it's just going to spin, so I'm going to just kind of wave it out. And thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoy. Please go follow Crow. All the links will be everywhere you need to be. And yeah.